Well, I'm glad you're in this course, and I'm making this video for CRST 5 for 1, but this is going to be for all of my courses. So if you want to know how to do underlining of words on your articles, which I require, then you're going to have to follow these principles in any course that I teach. Now, I want to explain why I do this, because if you understand why, because you might just think it's an assignment that's busy work to do that doesn't really have any meaning, but it has tons of meaning. So let me give you an explanation. Years ago, an FC College student, our first major in Christian studies, he graduated and he went to the US to study at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, which is a very good school. And he earned his Master of Divinity there and Master of Theology there. And now he's in a PhD program. And he wrote back to me at his first year when he was in the MDiv, the Master of Divinity, and he said, Dr. Bob, you have to teach your students how to read theology, because I have been given all of these articles to read and books to read, and I don't know how to read properly. This is an A student, hardworking student, strong Christian, really committed to scholarship and committed to Pakistan. And he didn't know how to read properly. Now, I know all of you know how to read. I'm not saying it in the normal sense. Reading theological articles and reading theological books is different from just normal reading. And I would say that there isn't really a tradition of learning how to read scholarly articles and books. It's not like reading the newspaper. And so what we're going to do is a method. And this method teaches you what to look for when you read a theological article or any graduate level or postgraduate level article. But now, this doesn't mean that you're going to continue to do this the rest of your life. It's not like this is the will of God that you always read in this way. However, I will say that if you really master what you're going to be doing in these articles you're going to be reading for this course, if you master this, you become really good at it, I can promise you that it will actually save you a lot of time in the end when you read articles, because you can go through articles faster when you know how to read properly. I'm not making this up. I talked to a student who's been through this already, and this student said, absolutely. The student told me that in fact, I'll just read you what the student said. It's right here. This semester, I complete long chapters for Dr. Wesley before the due dates with very good understanding. Although I read the whole chapters without skimming, I have a very good hand now in catching the key ideas because of the practice we did with you. And so what this student does is doesn't any longer use the exact way that I'm requiring you to do it, but that student still finds the key words and is able to understand way better than the student understood before. I promise you that for everybody it's hard, but especially when English is not your first language and you didn't grow up reading theological articles in professional journal articles. And so therefore, this is going to be helpful. I can also tell you that I've talked to Kenneth Gervais, and I've asked him about this, and he said, Dr. Bob, the most important thing you can do to teach our students is how to read theological journals. He just feels this is so important. He's getting his PhD right now in New Testament from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, and he's very, very concerned that you students will learn how to read theological articles. So I don't want you just to do this as an assignment. I want to get it over. I want to get it over. No, I want you actually to say, I'm gaining a skill. This is a skill building thing, not just an assignment. So what I'm going to do now is share the screen with a PowerPoint, and I'm going to show you how I want you to go about doing this. And it is going to be tempting just to jump through what we say in America is jump through the hoops, just do what you have to do in order to get the grade. But I sure hope you'll take it seriously, because I am very serious in this. Okay, so first of all, we do the reading paragraph by paragraph. And let me tell you something. This is also true if you're writing. I get papers from students, postgraduate students, and they write these papers with one paragraph for the whole paper. It's like, oh my gosh. No, each paragraph has a main question that it's answering. There's a main question for the whole article. We'll talk about that. But there's also a main question that each paragraph, which is a part of the main question for the whole article, and each paragraph is answering that question, giving evidence or giving explanation or showing examples. And so you need to go do your reading paragraph by paragraph. If you don't understand each paragraph, you won't understand the article. Okay, so this is a paragraph, and this is paragraph. You can see these are two different paragraphs. All right. Now I want you to do something which seems silly, but I'm going to mark you on it. So whether it's silly or not, you need to do this in order to get a good mark. Count how many lines are in the paragraph. Lines. So the first paragraph, there are 6.5 lines. In the second paragraph, there are 13.5 lines. All right? I'm serious. I want you to do this. Then what I want you to do is double it. 6.5 times 2 is 13. 13.5 times 2 is 27. And then I want you to add 5 to it. So 13 plus 5 is 18, 17 plus 5 is, or I'm sorry, 27 plus 5, that's a mistake, is 32. Now it's really important that you do what I said here, because that's how many words you're allowed to use. And I promise you, I count your words. I do, because I've done this now for 2 years, and I'm real serious about it. So I will count your words, so make sure. I only have done it for 1 year. I apologize, but I've done a lot of assignments. So make sure you know that you count them properly and that you double them properly and that you add the 5 properly. You're allowed to do 18 words in this first paragraph. You're allowed to do 32 words in the second paragraph. So this is how many words you're allowed to highlight for each paragraph. You can highlight no more than 18 words in this paragraph, okay? Can't do it. If you have 19 words, I take off points. I take off a lot of points because I do not like too many words. I had a student who would have, like, in one paragraph, almost every word would be highlighted. And that student got really poor grades until that student finally figured out how to cut down until that student got to the required number of words. All right. You can ignore the introduction and conclusion paragraphs. Sometimes conclusion is more, sometimes introduction has more than one paragraph. My experience has been that for most articles that the introduction is a waste of time to read. And I never used to think that, but that's just been my experience with highlighting. I discovered that there's just a bunch of nonsense in it or just a bunch of words and not really helpful. You would think the introduction would be very helpful, and there's some good writers where their introduction is quite helpful, but most of the time, the introduction is not really helpful, contrary to everything that people tell you. Also the conclusion. I don't get this, but conclusions are not really conclusions. Generally speaking, what they do is in their conclusion is apply it to something they've hardly talked about. A good conclusion summarizes everything in the article and then says, here's the answer to the question. My experience has been, and I mean, I've done this again and again, so my experience is pretty broad in this. My experience has been that somehow the writer does that before they get to the conclusion. That's my experience. It might be wrong, but for me, you don't have to do it. You can do it if you want, but don't do it as a part of my assignment. Okay? Never, 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 never for me. I'm talking about for me. You can do whatever you want to do for other people, but don't highlight a sentence. Never highlight a phrase. Now, let me tell you something about this. I look at some students in their highlighting in articles, and they highlight a sentence. And I've seen some that if they're using yellow to highlight, the whole page is yellow. Almost, just a couple of sentences are not highlighted. And so what does that do for you? Nothing. In fact, highlighting a sentence is good for a completely different reason. It's good if you're writing your thesis and you just want to make sure that, well, I want to come back to here. Every sentence I highlight is an important sentence for my thesis. So I know I'm going to have to come here and look at that again. Oh, I'm going to have to look at this again. Oh, I'm going to have to look at this again. You can highlight the sentence. That's fine, but not for me. If you're doing it for me, I want you to highlight the meaningful words, not the sentences. If I see a sentence highlighted, you're just going to get a 0 for the assignment. I don't want sentences highlighted. It can be helpful for what I just said, but rarely is highlighting sentences helpful for understanding an article. Rarely. Why? Because most of the sentences in a paragraph have something important. And if they don't, it's a lousy writer. Most of the sentences in a paragraph have something important to say. Otherwise, why even say it? Why write a sentence if it doesn't have something important to say? Right? So generally speaking, if you just highlight sentences, you're going to miss important stuff. And you're going to add stuff that's not necessary. Okay, so no highlighting sentences in this course. Okay, note. Oh my gosh. Oh, how can I get this through to you so you'll never forget this as long as you're taking courses with me? The words not, no, never, won't, can't, etc., the negatives, are 100% necessary words, and you don't have to count them in your word count. So say we had 18, what do we have? 17 plus 5 is 22. We had 22 words for one of the paragraphs we had, right? 22 words, all right? Now, the word not doesn't count. So I see the word not, I see it 3 times, all right? So, okay, that does not count in the word count. And that's extremely important to understand. That means that, first of all, that I don't have to worry about highlighting the word not. And I'll tell you something that I found. If you see the word not in a paragraph, it's probably important. If you see the word not in a paragraph, or no in a paragraph, or never in a paragraph, or don't in a paragraph, or can or won't, where it's a negative, it's probably important. Probably it's around a keyword. Now you notice here, look at this sentence 12. Revelation did not take place all at once, period. Now you notice I have the word not highlighted, but you notice I didn't have the word take, or place, or all, or at highlighted. I had the word once. Revelation, not once. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. The word once is the real key. If you use the word take, not take, what does that mean? If you use the word not place, what does that mean? Not once. You say not once. That actually explains what it's trying to say. That's a key word. All right. So your highlighting will make little sense. And I know this because I've marked so many papers with highlighting, and they forget the word not, or I don't know why, but they don't include the word not. And when they don't include the word not, it means the exact opposite of what the author meant. And I've had it happen to me dozens and dozens of times, more than that. And it's like, oh, no, you have to include the word not. So don't miss that word not. And you don't have to count it, like I said. Okay, now I'm asking you to do something which is a real pain. Life is filled with pain, okay? I want you to write down those words. Okay? You'll see I've got the words right here. Let me move my face out of the way here. Third, progressive, revelation, not, once, unfolded. Now I'm reading the words that I've highlighted. I just put those down in the paragraph that's down below. And so this paragraph has all of those words, see? And the reason I'm doing this, and the reason it's important, is that those words that we have there, I want you to be able to see them without the other words in the middle. Now, I wrote this, okay, when I prepared this PowerPoint. And as I wrote these, I kept going back and adding words, and I think I cut out a couple of words, but I definitely added some words because I realized it didn't make sense. Let me read it. Third, progressive. Revelation not once. Unfolded series acts through minds, many varying backgrounds. Light time historical settings, not complete, in progress. Own, not later document, post-biblical. Can I pretty much guess what the main meaning of this paragraph is? Okay, so I know this first one is the third is it's a progressive revelation. So this is the third point. Revelation, it doesn't happen at once. Revelation is unfolded in a series of acts through the minds, through many minds, and through many varying backgrounds. That makes sense. It's in a time historical setting. It's not complete. What is not complete? Well, Revelation is not complete. It's obvious. That's what the sentence, that's what the paragraph is about. That's what the whole article is about. It's in progress. Own. Well, that could mean a couple of things. Like I own a dog. I don't own a dog, but I own a house. I don't own a house either. I own lots of things. Not a later document. In other words, you're supposed to read it on its own, not from a later document, not from post-biblical. So that last one, own not later document post-biblical, isn't totally clear, but the rest of it's very clear. Revelation is progressive. It's not happened just at one time. It unfolded through a series of acts through minds, many varying backgrounds. And it's a time of historical setting. It's not complete. It's in progress. Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? Reading these words is actually easier than reading that paragraph. These words came from that paragraph. But when I read these words, I understand where that paragraph is going. You know, when I read the paragraph, he's not a bad writer. He's not a super great writer, but he's not a bad writer. When I read the paragraph, it's just like words. But when I read these words, I understand what that paragraph is saying. Yes, I can guess what this paragraph is about. It's saying that Revelation is progressive, that Revelation is a series of acts, that it comes from minds, many varying backgrounds, that there's a time and historical setting for it, that it's not complete, it's in progress, and it's on its own. It's not later document. You don't use later documents or post-biblical documents. I think I get it. That's what this paragraph is about. Okay? All right, let's move back over here. Questions to ask. Well, I'll move down there. Questions to ask. This is super important. You need to listen to this and think about it and read it over. Questions to ask about which words you're going to highlight. Okay, so once you've highlighted all the words, I'm serious, and this is what I did this for this. Then I read them out loud. Which words must be there for what I am reading to make sense? You know, that word own in the last sentence down there, own, not later document, post-biblical, those 5 words are a little confusing. So I might need to put another word in there. For the other words, if I removed a word, could I still understand the main point? If I can still understand the main point by removing and still remove a word, that word doesn't belong there. Let me say that again. If when I read these words that I have over on the left, and I'm right there, and if I read these words and I say, you know, I don't really need that word, then cut it out. If you don't need it, cut it out. And you say, you know, that own not later, right over here, own not later document post-biblical, it doesn't really make sense. All right, if it doesn't make sense, you may need to add something. When I read the words that I've highlighted, can I figure out what the paragraph is saying? I can figure it out. It makes sense to me. These words actually tell me what this paragraph is saying. So I look at these words, yeah, I've got it. If I can't figure out what the paragraph is saying, then I highlighted the wrong words. Let me say that again. If I can't figure out what the paragraph is saying, I've highlighted the wrong words. And I need to say something here. I want you to understand that when I have you reading articles, when Dr. Wesley or Dr. Daniel or Dr. Herb or whoever else is going to be teaching you in this MPhil program, when we give you an article to read or a book to read, a chapter of a book or a whole book, we're not giving it to you. It's busy work that you just do to keep you busy so that you have to do something. No, we want you to understand it. And we want you to understand how this fits into the course and how it fits into our subject matter. And let me tell you that most people, when they read these articles, I think it's fair to say that probably most people, that most of it they don't really think about very carefully and process very well. They just read the words and move on. They may have a general idea, but my experience has been they really don't understand what's going on. They just read it. It's sort of the way I read Urdu. Well, I can't read Urdu. It's the way I read Romanized Urdu. So then that becomes a problem. That's a real problem. It's a big problem. And so you got to be able to know what each paragraph, and I say that, paragraph is saying, because this is one of the ways you are being taught this semester. And I'm not going to talk about a lot of the information that's in these articles. But you got to know it because you're going to be tested on it. You need to understand it anyway. Who cares about the testing? We care about this because we're going somewhere with this MPhil, and this is a part of it. Avoid these problems. Number one, do not highlight the same word more than once in a paragraph unless, do it only if the paragraph won't make sense without both occurrences. Yeah, so, highlight the word revelation, revelation, revelation 3 times in a paragraph. Students do it all the time. No, if you can just leave it one time, then leave it one time. Often you don't even need to do it at all. Don't highlight. Number 2, do not highlight common words. There, of, the, which, when. Don't do that. Don't. I get students all the time. If you can cut the word out, then it doesn't belong there. Don't highlight it, okay? Do not highlight those words which are the main words for the whole section or article. Like in the article that we're looking at, the word revelation. Well, the whole article is about revelation. So you don't need to highlight that word. God. I have students who highlight God. No, we know what's going on with that, unless it's necessary. And 95% of the time, in my lowly opinion, I did not do a study on this. This is not a scientific study with a blind experimentation and everything, but it's my opinion. Most of the time, the word God's there, Jesus there, Christian there, Bible, you don't need it. We already know it's assumed. We already know it's there. So don't do words like the, which, when, and don't do words like revelation, God, Jesus. If we know that what the article's about, don't highlight that word, okay? We can kind of figure it out just because we're reading that article. Do not highlight 2 words together unless you cannot understand without both. Choose the main word. You should be able to guess the second word. Sometimes you must do it, not as often as you think. You go through the paragraph that I highlighted for you, and you'll see, yeah, he did it there, and he did it there. I think I did it twice, something like that. But yes, you do have to do it sometimes, but don't do it often. Because if you do, I'll mark off for it. Let me just show you an example of this. I'm going to go through the highlighting here. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I said that. Don't forget the negatives. Now I'm going to go through this page because I highlighted the page for you. Notice, do not, same, not same. That's enough. Not same. I know the paragraph is about words. I know that this whole thing is about words. So I don't need to highlight the word words. Not same. Hey, coffee head. Actually, here's a mistake. Do it only if the paragraph won't. That word won't should have been highlighted. Okay. Won't sense both. Bus. Good enough. Not common. Okay. Not common. All right. Not main. All right. Not understand. Okay. Main. Not often. Don't negatives. I could have done don't forget negatives, but don't negatives. Yeah, probably need the word forget. I think it'd be better with the word forget there. Remember that with the knots, you don't count the knots in, all right? So if you use the word not, it's not a part of your 22 words. Because the word not is really, it's built into the words there. So like not same, the word same doesn't make any sense without the word not. Because the word not is saying, hey, this is the opposite. Not same. Same, not same. Okay, so without that word not, the word same doesn't make any sense. Okay, all right. So avoid all of these problems. After you've finished highlighting the entire article, you must read all the words you've written. So I have the paragraph here that I've already done for you. And then I have these others. This should be actually English words. I just have this because this is like a common thing that they do. They just take these Latin words for some reason. They always use the same article to do it. It's from 46 BC or something like that. Anyway, but what you should do is you take all of the words, and I'm dead serious. Have them all together. This is every paragraph. The first one's the third paragraph. The fourth one's the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. You read all of those words together. And what you do is you go, okay, I'm going to do the top paragraph. Third progressive. Revelation not once, unfolded serious acts through minds, many varying backgrounds. Light, time historical settings, not complete in progress. Own, not later document, post-biblical. And then I go through the next one and read the next one and read the next one. I'm not reading the chapter or the paragraph, or the article. I'm not reading it. I'm reading these words. Read them all. Okay? And these Latin words here, this isn't, I would have all of the paragraphs done, but A, I didn't want to do it. And B, I want you to do it. Okay, that's why I didn't do all of these. But these would be these paragraphs would be the actual key words, just like the top one is the actual keywords, and these would all be the keywords of the following paragraphs. I read all of those words that I've done in a separate place. It's not just reading them on the page where the yellow is. I'm reading them in a separate place. I've written them in a separate place. You have to write them all down, like I say. It's right here in the instructions. And I'm going to read them all. And then once I've read them all, after I've read all of these words, move out of your way here. After I've read all of these words, I answer the following questions. What is the main question the writer of this article is trying to answer? How do I answer that? What is the main question? I look at all the words. What's he trying to answer when he talks about all of these together? I read all of the different words together and I go, oh, well, he's talking about he's answering a question about, I'm not going to tell you because that's your job. This will always be in the form of a question. Can't tell you how important this is. It's always, always, always a question with a question mark. It's really important that you do that, okay? So that's the main question. Every article should be answering a question. Sometimes articles will answer 2 questions. Occasionally they'll answer 3 questions. Usually there's 1 question and then there's 2 minor questions that need to be answered in order to understand the main answer to the main question. Most of the time, there should be 1 main question. And if there's more than 1 main question, it's not a good article. Really, seriously. By the way, would you please remember that when you write your master's thesis or just write papers? You need to be answering a question. Your question is more important than almost anything else you do. If you don't have a good question, you won't have a good paper. Okay? 2. What are the main ways the writer answers this main question? You got to write this down. I want to see this. So this is a part of how I'm going to mark your assignment. What are the main ways the writer answers this main question? These will never be questions. It will always be, and will always answer the main question. So here's important. If your points don't answer the main question, but they are important points, and you've correctly shown that they are important points in the article, then either your main question is not really the main question, which happens all the time, by the way. All the time you discover, oh, I guess I really didn't have the main question. There's a bigger question or a different question or a variation of what I say. If you have main points and those main points are not answering the question, then there's something wrong with your question, or the author's not a good writer, and that happens too. I mean, just because the guy's got a PhD or the woman's got a PhD doesn't mean that he or she is a good writer. Lots of lousy writers in the world. I guess there are probably more lousy writers than there are good writers. Sometimes they're lousy writers because they just never were taught how to write properly. Or they're lousy writers just because they're lousy writers, you know? Or maybe they don't really know what they're doing with this article. But whatever the point, you should be able to list the main ways that the writer answers this main question. And here's something that should be really helpful. You've got like 5 different points. Don't give me 10 points. Don't give me 15 points. I get that sometimes. I don't want to get 10 points, 15 points. There should be like 5, 4, 5. No more than 6, please. No more than 6. Just don't go crazy with this. Almost always, if you have more than 6, probably you're giving me the answers that support one of the main points. There's a main point, and then there's a paragraph that's supporting the main point. Don't give me every paragraph. Good grief. Don't do that. That's terrible. And now, okay, so you should be able to say, I am serious. Repeat the main question for the whole article. And then you should be able to say, here's his first answer. It's answering that question. Here's the second answer. It's answering that question. Here's the third answer. It's answering that question. Here's the fourth answer. It's answering that question. And you should be able to say, oh, yeah, it's answering the question. It's answering the question. It's answering the question. And then the third question you have to answer for me, for every single article that you read or chapter, I will probably give you chapters. I haven't decided yet. How well do you think these main points answer the main question? Notice I'm not asking you, how good was the article? Or I'm not asking you, did you agree with the article? Or I'm not asking you, is the article convincing? I'm asking you something that's much more important. How well do you think these main points answer the main question? Doesn't that change things? If you know what the main question is, and if you know what the main points are, you should be able to look at those 4 or 5 points and say, oh, I don't think that really answers the question. Well, I don't think that really answers the question, but that answers the question. Sometimes, maybe out of the 4 or 5 points, there's one answer that's really right on, correct, and spot on. Maybe the other 4 are not that good, but sometimes that one good answer is all you need. Often, the one answer is good enough. But there are times when you discover this author didn't really answer the question. And it's not because I got the wrong question. I got the right question. It's just that this author doesn't really have an answer. So I want you to have this. All right, okay. How is your professor, me, marking your assignment? Completeness. Did you highlight every paragraph except the introduction and the conclusion? 2, did you include lists of the highlighted words on a separate paper? 3, did you answer the questions? See that slide we have after you've finished highlighting, you must, after you've read all these words, answer these following questions. I'm talking about these guys here, these questions. Did you answer it all? So I'm looking for completeness. If it is an incomplete paper, you're going to get a lousy grade. That's it, because that's the easiest thing to grade. And if it's an incomplete paper, well, I don't really care what you wrote because you didn't finish the assignment. You have to finish the assignment. All right, so just keep that in mind. 2, correctness. Did the student choose the best words to highlight? Now, I'm not going to read every single paragraph that you highlighted. I am going to randomly choose, and I mean randomly. I go online to a random number generator. I number the paragraphs in the article or in the chapter. I number them. I'm serious, I do. And then I go to a random number generator online, and then I type in the number of paragraphs, and then I choose 2 or 3 paragraphs in the article, and those are the ones that I mark. So if you do one paragraph badly, there's a chance the Holy Spirit might tell that random number generator, oh, choose the one that person did badly. I'm serious. And so, well, what if you did 9 really well, but you did 1 really badly? If I choose the one that's really bad, in America, we say your goose is cooked. In other words, you're in big trouble because I chose the bad paragraph. You need to do all the paragraphs well. And I do it randomly, because I don't want you to be able to guess. which paragraph I'm going to choose. Okay, did you choose the best words to highlight? Did you give a meaningful and accurate main question? Did you give meaningful and accurate main ways the author answered the main question? Did you show depth of understanding in your overall evaluation of how well the author answered the main question? That's a lot of work for a professor. I mean, I love it. It's fine. That's why I'm here. But that's a lot of work for the professor. So if you didn't do these things well, I'm going to see that and I'm going to mark it down for it because I'm serious about this. This is I'm dead serious. I want you to be good at reading. So this assignment is going to be every week. You're going to have usually, I think, 2 articles that you're going to have to do this with. That's a lot of work. And I want to make sure you understand you're in a postgraduate program. And Dr. Tebby said about this program to me last week. He said, I'm really glad that you've put together a MPhil program that has some teeth in it. And what he means by that is that, there you are, and, a lion attacks you, but the lion doesn't have any teeth. It's just kind of like, doesn't do any damage to you. Well, it wouldn't have any claws either, or its paws, because those are really dangerous. But it's not going to do any damage to you because it doesn't have any teeth. A dog attacks you, but a dog doesn't have any teeth. It's not going to hurt you. But if a dog does have teeth, well, then that's a different thing. This MPhil program has teeth. It's a program that is going to make sure that you become a scholar. We're not going to just give you a degree. We're going to make sure you have the skills that are necessary for you to do for Pakistan what Pakistan desperately needs, for people to be able to teach how to study the Word of God as it was originally meant to be understood. And you're going to be able to write articles for our beloved pastors in Pakistan so that they can use those articles and books so that they can learn how to study the Word of God and apply the Word of God to the lives of these wonderful people whom we love in Pakistan. So I can't be satisfied with you just getting a degree. I have to make sure, and Dr. Wesley and Dr. Daniel and Dr. Herb and Dr. Gloria and whoever else comes, we're going to make sure that you have the skills that are necessary to be the very best at what you do. And that means you're going to have to learn how to read. If this technique for learning how to read works in you and you develop the skills and you get that idea, like this person said in what I read for you here. This semester, I complete long chapters for Dr. Wesley before the due dates with very good understanding. I have a good hand now in catching the key ideas because of the practice we did with you. This person also said, yes, sir, I definitely would recommend them to learn to read with looking for the keywords because knowing the key words helps best in understanding the key themes of the articles. Sometimes students read the whole article and they don't grasp the theme, but circling keywords nicely helps to draft the key ideas of the article. So I'm doing this because I love you. It's a ton of work for me, but that's work that's good work to do because I know that in the end that you're going to have the experience that this student has had, that you're going to become a scholar in reading articles. Okay. All right. So get to work and learn how to highlight the words properly for these assignments. Okay. God bless you.